Now, Whis is actually hiding in the ship, while he also tried to run for the police, just like Shiki, Rebecca, Happy, and Pixno, in which they also cannot leave the planet. But he also have a plan, which they can either turn themselves over to the police, or they can hand over the ship to Reese, which they cannot actually do that because if they do, who knows what Reese is going to do with the ship, in which they can actually give him the ship, but Pigno actually say the police is on their tail, in which they actually gonna make up their minds. Or Shiki is making up his mind because he actually given him the ship, which Rebecca rejects that plan because it's her ship after all, in which she actually say that they're gonna get a bigger ship if they want to meet Mother, which Reese actually heard that name, and so the and so they actually give Reese the ship, which he actually going to get them out, in which not only he actually used the ship and becoming the captain, but he actually has an ether gear as well, in which he actually going to upgrade the ship with custom ether for furnace, in which he actually upgraded it with his ether gear, transforming the ship and actually making the ship easy for their getaway, in which they actually modified it and they can actually use the ether jets and flew through the clouds, making their escape awesome enough to leave the planet, as they actually heads to Blue Garden. They can actually see that Wheat's ether gear is remaking machines, which is actually got the name Machina Maker, and which he actually used that power to fix Happy, which 50 years ago. And so he also have give Pigno her new left leg. And so we can actually tell that he actually have made a name, but which Shiki actually gave it a name as well, which he actually called it Thump Boy since he actually used the gravity. And between you and me, that's actually the worst name I actually heard. As soon as they actually leave the planet, they actually made it to space, in which they actually show uh, a phone message from Professor Reese, in which they actually heard the news that they actually about news about them, in which they actually saw an entire ban on travels and entries, in which they actually knew what's going on that planet. But since Noma is actually 50 years into the past, they actually knew what's at stake here, and which means that they actually knew what's going on. Since we of the past actually are the similarity of the old Whis, which we can actually see how all this plays out. But they actually say there's a monster on Noma that actually feeds on time on planets, in which they say the time monster, or I will actually say time eater, which time monster is actually irrelevant, but it actually say that the star actually affected by the time eater that actually have time reverse, in which we actually see there's no way to undo it, in which we stuck that way, in which we actually see the news about Weez actually hanging it out in the bar, in which we actually knew how all of this happened, in which the girl in the rabbit ears have been friends with Reese, in which we actually knew how all this plays out, which they actually say something about the Demon King, Shiki's grandfather, in which they actually knew how all this happens, in which they have nothing to worry about the time paradox, in which time, well, past and present are actually been stolen, but they actually have no idea how they're gonna get that back, in which they actually continuing on their journey, in which they actually encounter Elcy, the the space pirate captain, which they actually seen her ship, which is actually much bigger than the ship they're actually traveling, in which Shiki was actually excited about, until they were actually been caught into their tractor beam, in which we actually going to get we're going to get the confrontation of Shiki meeting Elcy. So we're going to find out soon. Alright, so now we actually knew what actually happened to the Whis in the past and the young Whis. We actually figure out how the time monster happened. But let me just actually get to the fact that the gang is going to meet Elcy, in which we're going to see their meeting in their first encounter of that. So I'm so excited about this, and I hope that we're going to see how they're going to escape the space pirates. So let's hope in the next chapter we'll see that. So anyway, like this video, subscribe for more, and comment on what you think about the manga chapter. You guys can also follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, and like my Facebook page. Until then, this is Anime Guy right here saying sign out. Laters!